Okay, it is 5:30 and I'm calling this meeting to order. First, a reminder, the meetings of the select board are meetings conducted in public. They are not meetings of the public. Nonetheless, members of the public shall be afforded reasonable opportunities to express opinions about matters conducted by the select board so long as order is maintained. The rules for public comment are, at the conclusion of a select board discussion on an agenda item, but before any action is taken, there may be 10 minutes afforded to public comment. Comments made by the public must be addressed to the chair of the select board as a whole, and not to any individual members of the select board or members of the public. Members of the public must be acknowledged by the chair before speaking. If a member of the public has already spoken on a topic, they shall not be recognized again until others have first been given the opportunity to comment. Order and decorum shall be maintained throughout the meeting. Personal, impertinent, threatening, or profane remarks will not be tolerated. For those who are participating via Zoom, please note that chat is not an appropriate avenue for public comment. All public comments must be made verbally when acknowledged by the chair. Please silence all cell phones, and a reminder to all that this meeting is being recorded and may appear on the internet. So are there any adjustments to the order of the agenda?
I have none.
Okay. Fletcher?
No, thank you.
Okay. Moving on to the approval of minutes of June 12th, 2024.
Make a motion to approve the minutes of June 12th, 2024.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of June 12th, 2024. Any changes or questions? Fletcher, do you have any?
Nothing, thanks.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Moving on to the warrants to the treasurer.
Make a motion to approve and execute the warrants to the treasurer upon completion of review.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve and execute the warrants upon completion of review. Karen?
Payroll warrant dated June 28th, 2024 in the amount of $25,026. On this warrant, we do have lifeguards in the pool. We also have rec league, and we have fire department.
All right, a full payroll.
So, yeah, what did we have? So for the fire department, it was like roughly $3,664.50.
Okay.
And then the pool was $5,847.69.
Okay. Any questions on the payroll? All right, moving on to the accounts payable.
Accounts payable dated June 15th through June 28th, 2024 in the amount of $339,043.76. In this warrant, you will see A.S. Clark and Sons. That is for the project on Westminster Road, box culvert.
Okay.
Basin Brothers, $184,259.14, paving of River Road South.
Okay.
And then just the regular monthly, MVP.
Do we have grants for those? Are we getting reimbursed for any of that?
We are.
Good.
So we have two grants. Paving grant is 20% local match, and then the structures grant is 10%. And just to let the board know that there is one small invoice due to us from Renault.
Okay.
The remainder for the box culvert.
Okay.
So I will be submitting the paving project because I have all those invoices.
Mhm.
And then I reached out to Renault about the second invoice.
Okay.
So as soon as I have that, I can send that in for reimbursement as well.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions about the accounts payable? Fletcher?
No,
Laura?
Hi, yeah, I'm being kind of geeky here. It's my understanding that Eric is back on the fire department. And if Eric is back on the fire department, is he on the fire department payroll? And then technically, should he abstain from voting on warrants because they are a part of his own pay? I'm not like pointing to anything nefarious. It's just a technical question.
That's a good question. He also has the lawn contract, and I don't think he's recused himself in the past, but that's, if you don't, well, we have enough, we do have a quorum, so we could entertain that.
That was my plan.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? I can't do that at the same time. Any other questions on the warrants, comments? All right, then, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. And one abstention. All right, moving on to public comments on items not on the agenda. Does anybody on the select board have anything to say? Fletcher?
Yeah, I'd like to read a brief statement. At the June 12 meeting of the Select Board, Chairwoman Shute read a statement taking me to task for what she perceived as my mistakes in addressing actions taken by Evan Martin during his time as acting fire chief. Ms. Shute began her comments by using a statement I made to the Putney Select Board on April 21, 2021. The circumstances that existed when I addressed the board in 2021 was that the board had issued a statement condemning alleged activities of the Equity and Inclusion Committee. The statement asserted that the committee's activities exceeded the scope of their charge and that committee members had been accosting community members because of their perceived political beliefs. In addressing the board that evening, I was acting on behalf of a client. The first problem with the board's 2021 statement was the committee had not given a charge per se in the sense of meaningful guidance on what they should or should not accomplish and what they should or should not do to accomplish the goals set for them. The second problem was that every member of the committee strenuously denied the factual allegations when I spoke with them. Nonetheless, without looking further into the matter, the board forged ahead with a statement condemning the activities of the committee. By contrast, Mr. Martin had acknowledged the actions for which I took him to task and his motive for making those actions in a telephone call which was recorded and which he knew was being recorded. I believe the town manager has a copy of that recording. So far, no one, including Mr. Martin, has denied the truth of what I said. In regard to any distress I caused Mr. Strauss with my comments at the May 15 meeting, I do apologize for that. I have only the highest respect for Mr. Strauss's abilities as an EMT and for his long and dedicated service to the town as a member of the Putney Fire Department. That said, what I was seeking at the board meeting on May 15 was simply financial transparency. Ms. Shute says that my request, quote, insinuated wrongdoing, close quote. I insinuated nothing. I said right out that we don't know where the money is going. I've reviewed the recording of that meeting and I agree that I did not make my purpose sufficiently clear, but that did not constitute insinuation. I do not believe that proof of wrongdoing is necessary in order for accountability to be requested. I believe that funds raised in the name of the town should be accurately accounted for, period. That said, numerous people whose opinions I respect have advised me that the members of the Firefighters Association are good people and that the association puts the funds it receives to good use for the benefit of the town. I accept their endorsements of the association and their assurances that nothing improper is happening with the funds the association has taken in. But I still believe the association needs to improve their accountability. I believe they should use an accountant to assist them with tracking their finances. Over the past decade, the fire department has suffered internal problems which caused a steady erosion in the number of people willing to volunteer as firefighters. Given our supervisory responsibilities, this is a situation that I hold the select board ultimately responsible for as well. The select board should have been working with the town manager and fire chief to address the growing personnel and morale issues before they reached a crisis point. Not only had that not happened, the proposals that I saw put forward by the time of the March 27 meeting would have, in my opinion, put the problem on steroids. Yet the board seemed blissfully unconcerned. My attempts to get the board's attention by requesting that items be put on the agenda or brought up in executive session were ignored, so I took more direct action. All other things being equal, I would have preferred a more diplomatic approach, but that was getting me nowhere. When I was first elected to the board, I knew I needed to learn a lot more about the fire department. I asked my assistant, who is a longtime resident, who she thought I should talk with. She recommended Billy Strauss and arranged an introduction. I met with Billy on March 9 for a long talk, and he impressed on me that the firefighters felt that the crisis was immediate and were distressed that the board did not appear to be paying attention. I immediately emailed Chairwoman Shute and requested that she call an emergency meeting of the board for Monday. She replied that she would get back to me the next day, but she did not. The emergency meeting did not happen. Meanwhile, there was a special meeting already scheduled for that Thursday, March 14. So I figured we could discuss the fire department at that meeting. Then the town manager canceled the Thursday meeting. I objected to the manager doing that without board action, and Ms. Shute told me that since there had been no formal vote of the board to schedule the Thursday meeting, the town manager was free to cancel it without board input. Ms. Shute did nothing to reinstate or schedule another time for the meeting. So as it turned out, about 2 weeks went by after Tom's resignation while the fire department was in turmoil, and the select board, the elected body with responsibility to supervise the fire department, left them dangling in the wind. I believe that this was an appalling abdication of responsibility. Ms. Shute did not include that in her list of apologies, and I do not presume to apologize for others. Moving forward, however, I believe it is essential that the select board accept and acknowledge its role as the board ultimately responsible for the management and welfare of the fire department. Direct day-to-day responsibility should certainly be assigned to the fire chief and the town manager, but the select board needs to step up to the plate and be willing to be directly involved as well on an ongoing basis. When a call comes from the fire department, we have to be available and willing to respond. Chairwoman Shute also suggests that my request for an executive session of the board on at the May 29 meeting was improper because the request did not state clearly what was to be considered. In my motion, I stated the request was made under section 313A3, the section covering the evaluation of public officers or employees. She suggests that a more thorough explanation was required by the open meeting law. I disagree. Where the performance of individual officers or employees is to be reviewed in executive session, the motion rarely, if ever, names the individuals. As soon as we got into executive session, Ms. Shute asked me who it was about, and I said, us. I wanted to discuss how we had handled the crisis at the fire department following Tom's resignation. I felt there had been significant failings and was hoping that a discussion of what our responsibilities were and where we had fallen short would help us to do better in the future. Things went straight downhill from there. Ms. Shute and the vice chair made absolutely clear that they had no interest in any such discussion. The one point on which we can agree is that the tone of the meeting was uncivil and ultimately unproductive. I was interrupted repeatedly and ultimately not allowed to finish explaining my concerns. At the very least, I do not feel that my attempt at an explanation was treated with the respect that Ms. Shute now says we should show one another. The fire department is undergoing a process of reorganization, and I believe that good work is being done there. The select board, however, is not engaged in any process of internal review and has shown neither the will nor the inclination to engage in a process of self-examination. The town will ultimately decide what sort of fire department it wants. The town should also decide what sort of select board it wants. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other comments in the room? Billy?
Billy Strauss here. I don't have a prepared statement, but I'm going to respond. May I respond to that?
You may address your comments to the chair of the body as a whole.
Okay. I would like to thank the select person who just spoke, Fletcher, for his statement. I also want to thank the chair of the board publicly and the vice chair, as well as the entire board, for what I perceive to be Herculean efforts to try to keep the train on the tracks with respect to the fire department. I think it's been a very challenging moment. I think some of the events at the meetings that were just referred to in Select Person Proctor's statements are part of the reason that it's been a very challenging moment. And I, for one, would like to leave those behind. I do want to respond, I think, in particular to two things that were just said because they impact me directly. The first one maybe indirectly, but directly enough, which is that, to be clear, the issue that I had, speaking for myself with what went on in the March 27th meeting, had to do with the fact that what I understood to be a personnel issue was dealt with in open session. And again, I would like to leave this behind. I think we all understand why that was perceived to be quite problematic. But I need to say again for the record that the issue is not necessarily relitigating what got us there. I understand Select Person Proctor was frustrated and felt like this was the only way he could proceed. But I think the remedy was inadequate and out of line with the issue at hand. And I think it was really unfortunate to call out somebody so publicly, especially somebody who was a town employee at the time. I don't think we do that in public session, to my understanding. Secondly, I just wanted to say that despite what I just heard in that statement, I do feel like there was very direct innuendo contained in the statements at the June, believe it was 12th meeting, not positive about the date, as regards potential inefficiencies or improper handling of funds.
Something. Go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I mean,
I didn't
whatever the date was.
Our last one was June 12th.
Oh, sorry. You know, they all blur together.
They do.
I think that I understand now somewhat better where Select Person Proctor was trying to go with what he was getting at. But again, I would say, as with the March 27th meeting, the remedy that he chose was wildly out of line with the issue he was trying to address. And I think that that caused a very unfortunate set of resonances for me personally, for the association as a whole, and also, frankly, within the community. I've talked to a lot of people who were quite distraught with the comments that were made in public at that meeting. So I just wanted to respond to those two things. So thank you.
Other comments online, Laura?
I kind of second what Billy just said. And I would suggest that if there are select persons that have not reviewed the personnel handbook yet and the procedures that are in place for dealing with issues with staff, that they do so. Because I think it's really important that procedure is followed. And I think that some of what has taken place in these meetings is select board stepping over procedure. So I just hope that that happens and that we can put this stuff behind us and people stop throwing rocks at each other.
Okay, thank you. Are there other comments in the room? I do want to apologize again because personnel issues did get aired in public comment, and I'm sorry that happened. I made a conscious choice not to interrupt Mr. Proctor, Select Board Proctor, as he was speaking. And I am sorry that happened once again. Are there other comments online? Any other comments on the board? I do agree with Mr. Proctor that the community does need to decide what kind of select board it would like. And with that, let's move on. Town manager's report?
Yeah, where is that? Sorry, folks.
That is a question only you could answer.
A little bit there. All right. So Westminster Road project is complete. It looks really good. I don't know if people have been up there, but they did an excellent job, very professional. River Road South, I was on that today. It's nice, nice and smooth. The state schedules projects in the area for line painting, so that will happen at some point. I just don't know when. Sometimes we don't know when they're going to be around. They just do it. So, but Basin Brothers did a good job on it. I met with the state health officer yesterday about a health complaint on West Hill. I went to the site as a zoning administrator and I asked board member Eric McGowan if he could meet me there. We did the inspection and we will work with the state health officer, Sean McRae, who is also there on the site. There's a lot going on up there, but we're gonna take the state health officer's lead. And I would recommend to the board that at some point we consider appointing someone as a health officer sooner than later.
Okay, somebody who would like to do it?
So maybe we put it back out there. There are criteria for that role and responsibility. But now that we have a contact, we can, see it through, but we definitely should get someone appointed.
I wholeheartedly agree.
Correct. In the meantime, I will continue to work with the state and with board member McGowan if that's appropriate.
Works for me, works for you?
Sure.
Okay.
And I just want to say thank you for meeting me up there, Eric, because you just don't know what you're gonna step into.
Sure.
The new revised website is live as of today. We will be moving to .gov email, and those actually might be up at this point too. We have like 6 months to transition from our .gov, or excuse me, .org to .gov. So
So you don't have to migrate everything today?
Yeah.
That's good.
So if people still have our old emails, it'll still get forwarded to our new .gov accounts. And I'll be speaking to the boards and the committees because you're only allowed so many, and then we're gonna be paying for extras, but we need to figure out, like for the select board,
Yep.
that you each don't have one.
I think it would, yeah, I think,
There's one central email that somebody's gonna have to monitor,
okay,
okay?
all right.
But,
That makes sense, I think.
well, with open meeting law, we've had this conversation, and as of July 1st, which we're gonna have to, we may have to change our policy a little bit
Okay.
based on changes, but, we probably shouldn't have personal emails.
Right. So I think I might have misunderstood what you said. So I think we should each have our own individual accounts, but they shouldn't be personal email. They shouldn't be Gmail accounts.
Right.
That's just
Right,
looking for failure.
yeah. So we'll look into how to set them up. If we need 5 select board member.
Yeah, I think we
emails.
probably would need those, and then, I mean, it would be nice to get ones for at least the chairs of the committees.
Right.
Maybe not necessarily the members, but
Right.
it would, but I think it just, in terms of public records and
Yes.
continuity and document management, I think it would make a lot more sense.
So we're working on that. Pool is busy. We did close on Sunday because of tornado warnings, but it was humid up until 4 o'clock, which was like, but we didn't want to, safety reasons, we just closed it early.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be coming back to the board probably the next meeting. We're looking at a dual water fountain with a, fountain with a bottle filler. And its approximate price is about $6,000. We're still working with a vendor that might be able to underbid that. And we're also looking at a robotic commercial pool vacuum, which is approximately $5,000. So we still have the special pool fundraising fund that we can expend money out of that for these 2 items. But I'll bring this back to the board the next meeting.
Okay.
And then I just want to let you know that we do have interest in Cooper Field for events. I did have somebody reach out to me for dog training, but and the bandwagon summer events are happening up there as well. There's like 10 events scheduled for the summer.
Cool.
And we'll talk about that some more in a little bit. So, and that's all I have for right now. I'm
Okay.
sure I could have had more, but it was just like,
That's all good. All right, so are there any comments on the select board about the town manager's report? Fletcher? Are there any comments in the room? Any comments online about the town manager's report? Okay, moving on to boards, committees, and commissions. We don't have anything under that. Select board new business is the first one is the Hendricks Revocable Trust request for decrease in allocation, which makes us the sewer and water commissioners. Karen, do you want to?
so in your packet, there's an application for decrease in allocation for wastewater, which is sewer, and for water at 94 Main Street. So apparently the rules have changed a little bit. And for this particular property, they're looking at units instead of actual,
Instead of metered.
instead of usage,
Okay.
So it has, an engineer has done the flow for this building. So there's 4 apartments in there with 4 small offices. So there is a decrease based on the units. At some point, we're gonna have to update our ordinance as well. So it does state in there, if you have like a space that is like, I don't know, 420 square feet or less, it's only a half a unit. And I'm just like, why do they have to make this complicated?
Right,
So
because it's the same number of fixtures.
they don't go by the fixtures or the bedrooms.
They should go by, at least by the
Well,
fixtures.
That's a state regulation, so I'm not gonna fight that battle, but an engineer did do the calculations.
Okay,
So I would recommend to go ahead and reduce the allocation. If that building changes in the future, and let's just say all the offices become like an apartment,
yeah,
then they're probably gonna come back and ask for a change. So at any time that a property changes use, we may see a new request.
all right. So, do we need to do these separately?
No, I think this is more or less just like administrative.
Okay. So can I hear a motion to, well, what's the motion?
Oh, I didn't give you a motion,
You
did I?
did not.
Sorry. So,
Proposed use, existing use.
I would just, yeah,
Okay, so can I hear a motion, I'm gonna do these separately,
okay.
okay? So can I hear a motion to reduce the wastewater allocation at 94 Main Street from 1,125 gallons a day to 900 gallons a day?
Perfect.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to reduce the wastewater allocation for 94 Main Street from 1,125 gallons a day to 900 gallons a day. Any other discussion among the board? Anybody in the room have a comment? Anybody online? Right, then hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And then the second motion is to reduce the allocation, water allocation for 94 Main Street from 1,125 gallons per day to 1,040 gallons per day.
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to reduce the water allocation for 94 Main Street from 1,125 gallons per day to 1,040 gallons a day. Any discussion among the board? Any comments in the room? Any comments online? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Okay, any opposed? Good. All right,
Thank you.
the next is the grand list extension request from the listers. Do we have a lister?
We do not.
Okay.
So this is a second request for an extension.
Mhm.
They're close with Patriot, having everything uploaded and online.
Yeah,
But because July 1st is like
coming around,
next
yeah.
week,
Yeah,
Jordy has requested an additional 21 days. Doesn't think he's gonna need it, but just as a precaution, he
Okay.
asked for 21.
okay, so the values are in, it's just that, are they having some trouble getting it back into NEMRIC? Is that the issue, or is it something else?
I'm not really sure. I don't think all the data's in.
Oh, it isn't? Okay,
No.
all right. I heard there were some technical difficulties trying to get it back into NEMRIC.
Oh, I don't know.
It doesn't matter, it'll get
Yeah.
resolved one
So
way or the other.
21 days, but it could be done sooner.
Yep. Okay. So, anybody on the board have any questions about that? Okay. I guess the only thing is that it has the potential to affect when tax bills go out, right?
Yes, because the state doesn't have our grand list yet.
Right, so they can't do
So,
the school rate.
Right, and our next meeting's the 10th, so we'll know more by then.
Right, because we have to, we set the tax rate.
Right.
Okay, all right. Okay, well, it is what it is, right?
Right.
Okay, so, can I hear a motion to accept the grand list extension request, authorize myself to sign it for an additional 21-day extension?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to accept the grand list extension request, authorize myself to sign it for an additional 21-day extension. Is there any other comments on the board? Any comments in the room? Fletcher, did you have a comment?
Nothing,
Okay.
thanks.
Any comments in the room? Did I say that already? Any comments online? All right, hearing none, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. All right, next is the resolution for ARPA allocation. That's you, Karen.
So I spoke with Katie Buckley. Every town that was appropriated ARPA funds needs to have this resolution on file in case of an audit. Basically, it just states that we received $737,428.59, and that the very last paragraph on the first page
Mm-hmm.
states where the money was obligated to.
Okay.
So that is the important piece right there. So we obligated $223,369 to Putney community-based nonprofit agencies and a for-profit childcare organization The remaining amount of $514,059.59 will be obligated for municipal purposes, including but not limited to public safety, project consultants, and the purchase of land for recreational purposes. So, my understanding also is for the municipal projects, we need to have contracts in place with either the consultants or have, a check, not a blank check, but a check like for the property we just bought, showing that, we are committed to moving forward
Okay,
with that money. So,
by this December, right?
well, October 1st is the,
Oh,
but I'm gonna get clarity on that because the only project would be town hall.
mhm.
Everything else will have a contract before October 1st.
Right, 'cause okay,
Yeah, because we have the reappraisal.
Yep.
The two studies that we're gonna be, well, the one study for the housing needs assessment and zoning bylaw modernization.
right,
We're gonna have a consultant by August.
okay,
So I'm not concerned, but I'll stay on top of that.
okay. All right, so this is just basically certifying that we obligated all the money.
That is correct.
Any discussion on the board?
No.
Fletcher?
Nope, thanks.
All right, can I hear a motion then to adopt the American Rescue Plan Act allocation resolution?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adopt the American Rescue Plan Act allocation resolution. Are there further discussion among the board? Any comments online? Any comments in the room? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Next is the Windham County Sheriff's Office contract review and approval. Also you, Karen.
Yeah, this is our annual contract starting July 1st, 2024 through June 30, 2025. The contract amount is for $108,000 for the 12 months of service. It's our standard. I don't have any comments about it. And this is for 40 hours a week, by the way.
Okay. I know law enforcement is a topic of discussion, comes up regularly. Do we want to have the sheriff here to talk about this? Or are we feeling good about it? Fletcher, do you have an opinion?
No, it looked like a pretty thorough contract to me.
Okay. Eric, do you have an opinion?
No.
Looks good.
Okay. So, can I hear a motion to accept the contract with who's signing this? You're signing this, Karen?
Yeah,
Okay.
can you authorize me to
Yep.
sign it?
All right, so can I hear a motion to accept the contract for law enforcement services and authorize Karen to sign it?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to accept the contract for law enforcement services and authorize Karen to sign it. Is there further discussion on the board? Any comments online about the renewal of the contract for the Windham County Sheriff's Office? Anybody in the room? Heather?
I just have questions about who sets the hours. So they're contracted for 40. The school's definitely been an issue. And later in the year, they were up there in the afternoon, but it doesn't seem like anybody comes on duty till 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. And then trying to facilitate the where and when kind of seemed to be a miss this year.
I think that would probably be something we contact the sheriff on. I do feel strongly that the school should be paying a fair share of any enforcement that we're using on their behalf. I make that pitch every year.
Yeah. So can I make a
Yeah, go
comment?
ahead.
So the sheriff does their own scheduling.
Mhm.
So it can be during the day, it can be at night. It's like all over the map.
Right.
So,
You get what you get, you don't throw a fit, is kind of how it.
but here's the thing, every month we get a report, how many hours and where they've been. And all those reports are put online on the website. And we track the hours. So I make sure we get what we're paying for.
Right.
And I just can't, you know, if they had set hours, then people would be doing other things when they're not around. And, you know, frankly, I'd rather be surprised than know that they're gonna be here from 8 to 5 every day, you know, so. And I don't micromanage the sheriff's department. If there's something going on in town that I think they should be here, then I'll call and say, hey, can you have a deputy, you know, like out on Old Route 5 or Sand Hill when the bridge was being done. But, you know, other than that, they pretty much manage their time. And I'm okay with it because I know they're giving us the hours. So.
Does that answer your, I mean,
Yeah,
I think in a perfect world, there would be coverage at the school, you know, during school hours, separate from the coverage that we have in town, which I guess is kind of what I'm getting at, that they should have their own schedule. They should have their own contract with.
Right, I would argue that that's a high priority area given the time of day. And had we not ended up into a merged school district, it would still be town property and a town priority.
Yeah.
But they are town children.
It'd still be a school district budget item because the school district and the town district.
And are you talking like a school resource officer or just?
No, I'm talking about traffic or
Right.
like a crossing guard. I know they have, or they had a crossing guard.
They do have a
did finally get a crossing guard,
yeah.
so that's cool.
Yeah.
But
If there's an emergency up there too,
Yeah.
the sheriff would go right
Right.
there. So, but they're not gonna sit there in the morning and afternoon to,
They used to.
I mean, that might be a conversation with the
that's the
school.
major thing that always comes up. And
Right.
I guess there's not a good way to force them to sit there without using all of our hours. That's the issue.
Okay.
So we'll keep having that conversation. Okay. Did we vote? We didn't vote yet.
No,
Did we have a motion on the table? We do that.
I don't.
We
have
don't.
a motion.
Heather's nodding her head. Yes.
Yes.
She's keeping track. Okay, good.
Yeah.
All right. So, are there any other comments online about the sheriff's contract? Any other comments in the room? Okay, hearing none. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, cruising right along. Controlling this use of alcoholic beverages on town. It's pretty hot in here,
I was
guys.
gonna say, it's getting warm in here.
My hands are sticky. Controlling the
Yeah.
use of alcoholic beverages on town property ordinance. So this looks like it was typed up in, I don't know, 1965.
No, it's 1978.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So this is in your packet.
10 years old.
And this might be a product for the work session. I bring it up because Cooper Field, which is getting some activity, any event up there, I'm having a facility use agreement signed by the, you know, agency or organization that's using the field. In the agreement, on page 2, it says sale, possession, consumption, and use of alcoholic beverages. So it can be permitted or not permitted. And given that the ordinance is 1978, it needs to be updated because I'm sure it's not current with law. But I'm requesting that the select board take a look at this and have a plan on how to handle this. Next Stage, who's using the field right now, they do have a liquor consumption permit approved by the board. They also have a caterer that provides alcohol at the summer bandwagon events. So that caterer gets a special permit from Jonathan Johnson. But because this is town property, does the board, how do you feel about having alcohol on the field, for one? And two, we really need to work on this ordinance. So we don't have a concrete plan for the field this year.
Yeah,
I'm kind of winging it right now, but risk and liability is real. So perhaps in the July work session, we can formulate.
I can take a look at this. You can put it on my name,
Okay.
and maybe I'll have something by the work session.
And you have to consider too,
There's gotta be
right,
there's gotta be updated
law.
laws and ordinances out there. Sorry, I interrupted you.
That's okay. You know, we do have other public facilities, you know, you're gonna have to take into consideration how you wanna handle this.
Okay. Other discussion on the board about this policy, ordinance rather? I mean, I wonder if we should start putting expiration dates on our ordinances, just so that they don't linger out there for however many years that's been.
Well, newsflash, so every year,
I
you
know,
should be looking at all of them.
at least some of them, I'm not sure we
But
got all of them, but we
you're
should
not
at
gonna
least
be
have
able
them
to-
rotating like.
You can't do all of them,
Right.
but I think, like this one, as we get to them, I guess we can update them.
Yeah.
And work on maybe 3 a year or something.
Yeah.
Some of them are very old.
This one is not older than me, but it's almost older than me.
I think most of them are
Older than you.
Yeah. So,
All right. Any comments in the room? Jeanette?
I was going to say that in terms of sunsetting your ordinances, what we did in the legislature is, because they're always creating new reports and new boards and commissions, every year they do that, and they only last for 5 years. And after 5 years, they completely sunset unless you review them and renew them. So I think you can do something like that. The other thing I was going to say was, I hate to sound like an old curmudgeon here, but I've been going to the ball field since about 1980, and I would hate to see there be an ordinance against having a beer there.
Fair. Duly noted. All right. Any comments online? Fletcher, do you have any?
No, I agree. It's probably time for a review of that one.
Okay. Any comments from the public? About an alcohol ordinance on town property? All right, moving on to select board old business, the information technology request for bids.
so this is in front of the select board. Last meeting we had one bid.
Yeah,
Uh,
guess we don't have anything on that, okay.
So I would like the board to decide whether or not they're gonna accept that bid or reject it and put it back out to bid.
Okay. So I had a discussion with Karen, and met with,
Kyle?
Kyle from VC3.
Yes.
It's, their services are top notch. My feeling was that they were a little bit overkill, for a small, municipality like this, so I was wondering, and also I had heard that there were some places that were currently serving municipalities in the area that hadn't responded to the bid originally. So my feeling was that, I mean, I hate to reject it outright because it's a perfectly good bid, but if that's our process, that's our process. So my feeling was that we might want to put it out to bid and specifically make sure that those other companies are reached, so that they have a chance to look at the equipment. And I would recommend them actually coming in and looking at what you have here, because it's really hard to describe it over the phone.
Yes, and pictures don't
Yeah.
show everything.
Yeah, so, because I also think there were a couple of assumptions that VC3 made about the setup that might not have worked out.
Mhm.
And they would have worked out eventually, but not as easy as they might have thought. So that's my recommendation. I don't know how the rest of the board feels.
I mean, that makes sense to me to put it out for more than one
Put it back
person,
out.
yeah.
Okay. Fletcher?
Yeah, I'm in favor of putting it out again.
Okay. So Karen, do we need to outright reject that bid and then direct you to put it back out to bid, or can we kind of hold on to that bid and expand it?
I would reject it,
Okay,
and just to be fair,
okay.
because I don't wanna see them come back and say, you know, just reject it and we start over,
Start over, okay.
please.
All right. So can I hear a motion to reject the VC3 bid for IT services and to direct Karen to put it back out to bid?
So moved.
Second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to reject the VC3 bid and to direct Karen to put it back out to bid for IT services. I did that in the wrong order, but you get the idea. Is there comments online? You're not online. Are there comments online? Are there comments in the room? Any further discussion among the board? All right,
No.
hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Putney Fire Department status report, we have Brian here. Are you ready to do that?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, so I guess just a little update. We've had since the last time I updated you, we've had 20 calls. Every Tuesday has been a training or a work detail with anywhere from 8 to 15 people. So we've been pretty positive. We've had a fair amount of folks showing up for calls. Most of them have just been, fire alarms, or we did have one small fire out on East Putney Brook Road. It was an ATV. It's been good. People seem happy around there, some smiling faces, and so that's positive. And some new folks showing up. It seems like every week or two I'm handing Karen some applications. Other than that, it's been good. There's been some talks with on the EMS side of things to try to get that going again. We're not there yet, but we're having a conversation, and it seems like most of it has been pretty positive. So we're not there yet, but we're working on it.
And what do you mean, elaborate on that? Like, what would be the process to bring it back in?
I think we're just trying to figure out what we're gonna do for, just personnel, head of service, who's gonna be in those shoes. Where it's more or less just conversations that need to get hashed out between all of us to figure out what's comfortable and I think we're probably almost there to maybe start doing that, but I'm also not the person that's really huge on that EMS side of things, so I'm relying on some other people that are, have the experience and they're I'm in the conversation, but they're sort of steering the ship, and we're trying to make it work. So
All right, Karen?
So I just want to add one comment. I had requested rescue EMS numbers. I had Jeanette White gather these numbers. There were 32 calls for EMS and 21 were transports. And that is from May 15th through yesterday.
Okay.
So,
But there were more. There were more after yesterday. It was about a week and a half ago.
okay.
Okay. And do we still have a hard deadline of, what was it, August 1st for the rescue contract? Arrangement, whatever we're calling that.
I don't know if it's definitely a deadline, but it's a kind of
It's a date.
sort of a line in the sand that could possibly get moved if need be. It's not a set in concrete thing,
Okay.
but I'm hoping that
Okay.
maybe we'll be running it out of our station by then.
All right. I guess I'm feeling like, because we did run into personnel issues before, that it would be nice to have a little bit, some concrete numbers about how many people there would be on the roster
Yeah.
and what their qualifications are and what we're expecting them to do.
Yeah.
And, kind of the same information we asked when we stood up the fire station again.
Yeah.
Jeanette?
I was going to say for the August 31st date, that isn't a rescue issue. They're willing to continue to serve Putney because we're a member town.
Yeah, no.
So they'll serve it, but it's an issue with the state, with the parking lot. It's the issue, because once it gets, they have their little thing there, and they're pulling the electricity off from the state grid poles, whatever they are. And then the state is kind of worried that if it extends into the winter, there's going to be issues around plowing and that kind of stuff. So it isn't a rescue issue.
I gotcha. All right, that makes more sense. All right. Laura?
Well, first of all, thank you to Brian and everybody involved. I know this can't be easy, and it's appreciated all that you're doing. And then my question is, there was a lot of concern over response time and the ability to have a crew be safe in a response. How's that going? How's everyone feeling about that?
Are you talking about fire specifically?
Yeah, specifically.
Do you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I mean, it's, with anything to do with a call, it all depends on people. So, if everybody's in town, the other night we had, I think 5 calls within about 20 minutes, and they all got answered bang, bang, bang. But people were around. People knew there was a storm coming, and
It was a weekend too, right?
yeah, no, that was a weeknight. That was a weeknight.
Okay.
Yep. And then we had some more on Sunday when we had all the, but yeah. So it's but I think we've been getting 2 engines out the door. I would call it in good time. I wouldn't say it was any slower than it has been in the last 5 years. So we've been getting, engines out the door with a good number of folks on them and trained people. So for what we're kind of dealing with, I really couldn't be any happier with what we got going. I mean, there's always room for improvement. I hope we get better, but as far as what we got going on here, I would call it a win for sure.
Okay, that's good. Laura, did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Are there other comments online about the fire department status and the status of the EMS service? Any comments in the room? Any discussion among the board? Karen, did you have another?
I want to ask a question here because I know the interim chief had spoken to me about going into an executive session tonight.
Okay.
regarding an employee appointment.
That's okay. We could, don't we have it on here? Well, yeah, we kind of have it already here,
Okay.
don't we? That's fine. Do you want to stick around for executive session?
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
Okay,
well,
okay.
maybe we'll.
So that's about a
stick around.
possible appointment of an employee. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
We're almost done.
Don't say that. That's such a joke.
Yeah, we're close.
All right. So, if there's Laura.
Again, the geek in me. How does that work if Eric works for the fire department and you're going into an executive session with the fire chief to discuss an employee? Is that, I don't know, is that appropriate?
Well,
It just feels tricky to me.
it does feel tricky. This has been an ongoing issue, and we've had this discussion before. As we know, the only person who can recuse themselves is the actual select board member. So I guess I'll ask Eric how you feel about that.
I mean, we can look into it some more if you want, it's up to you, but I feel fine about it, but
Not quite sure what we're.
Can I ask a follow-up
anyway.
question?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm just curious if you played out the scenarios. Like, if you're going into, I wonder about power dynamics and
Mhm.
potential scenarios that could come out of this.
Yeah.
And I think, Eric, you're a stand-up guy. I'm not taking issue with you. I'm worried about the potential possibilities that could come out of this. I'm sure other towns have grappled with it before. My suggestion is to really seek more information before going forward, because this is no longer Eric might have an interest. Eric is now a paid employee of the fire department and sitting on the select board in a position of authority.
so maybe we can table this and figure this out a little bit, and then we'll, next select board meeting, do Brian's appointment or whatever.
Maybe that's wise anyway, because we don't have the full board. Can you wait for 2 weeks?
Yeah, I mean,
Okay. All right. So maybe we can put that in as an actual agenda item, so we can just suss it out next week, next meeting.
I mean, I don't know how it really works, but does it have to be done in executive session?
I would prefer to talk about employee
Okay.
matters in
Right.
executive
That's
session
fine.
in
Yes.
general,
Yes.
because otherwise it's
Yeah.
fraught with issues.
Yeah.
And Laura, thank you for bringing that up. I see where you're coming from. It hadn't actually occurred to me honestly, but you're absolutely right. That's something we need to think about. So I've scratched that off instead of putting it on. All right, is there Jeanette?
So I was just going to make a comment about conflict of interest. I think that there's a difference between a power dynamic and conflict of interest, and you're always going to have power dynamics in groups when you have different people and different positions and different positions in the community and stuff. But a conflict of interest generally isn't viewed as a conflict of interest unless the person has substantially more to gain out of the decision than everybody else in the same in the same field. So if you're a taxpayer and you have a conflict of interest with setting the tax rate, but you have no more to gain than the rest of the town. And Eric is a firefighter, but he's also on the select board, but he has no more personally to gain than any other firefighter. Or I think that the whole conflict of interest is very confusing, and in a small town it is impossible to to get away from conflict of
Sure.
interest, and so you just have to be open about it.
Sure, so, and I guess we're getting delving into this subject now as opposed to next
Oh,
week.
I'm
But I just
sorry.
would say that, I totally take your point. I also could see a scenario where, say, we were hiring, my colleague, and, because I also worked for the town for whatever reason, and there's scenarios where there would be reasons why it would be a conflict of interest for me to go into executive session and basically interview that person. Not necessarily for financial gain, but for personal gain, or, to remain keep my own employment or keep my own position, or, whatever it is. So it's very amorphous. We've run into this before. Not saying that there is a conflict of interest here. Not saying there's even an appearance of one, but it could be an issue, and I think we should probably suss that out, since we do have now an employee of the fire department also on the select board, which we did not have before.
Right.
Laura.
I just want to follow that up real quick. In this case, Eric is actually, in a strange way, the chief's boss in a group, but in an indirect way. He's responsible for his paycheck, and he could potentially be hiring somebody that is his boss. And so there is a direct interest there. I don't know that many people would argue that there's not. And I'm not saying that these are personal issues with any key player in this scenario, but what happens if it's somebody else that maybe there are issues with? So we don't know. You remove yourself from stuff like this so that there can be no perception from anybody. It could come into play in the team when people are looking at Eric and he has the power of the select board or the power with the select board, and he's choosing who's on the team. That doesn't play well to me. I have a perception of conflict there, and it's not about Eric. It's not about anybody in that room. It's about the roles.
Okay, thank you. So I think we're going to table this, and we're going to actually put it on the agenda as a topic so that we can explore it more at our next meeting. So if there's are there any other comments online? Any other comments in the room? Any other discussion on the board? Okay, we're going to move on to the Putney Fire and Rescue Advisory Committee status, which is Peg, but she's not here. Do you have any updates, Karen?
I don't. We have binders ready. We're trying to secure a facilitator.
Okay, so we're still at that point.
Yeah.
All right. Do we have hopes that we'll find somebody soon?
There's 2, maybe 3 potential.
Okay.
So.
All right. Anybody else have any questions about that item? We're close, but we're not there yet, I guess. All right, well then moving on to select board reports, we have the Cannabis Control Board process.
Nothing new.
Nothing new. Select board operating principles review and comment, that's Fletcher.
Yeah, that's not ready for prime time yet, nor is the next one.
Okay. All right, so then we are going to go into executive session. We're going to go into, we were going to go into exec, do we still have to go in for the first one?
No.
Okay. So we're going into executive session, but the next meeting, our next regularly scheduled meeting is July 10th, 2024 at 5:30 on Zoom and at the town hall. We're going into executive session under Title I V.S.A, or can I hear a motion to go into executive session under Title I V.S.A 313A1 after making a specific finding that premature general public knowledge would clearly place the public body or a person involved at a substantial disadvantage, which is labor relations agreement with employee. We are discussing Karen's contract.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to go into to executive session under Title I V.S.A 313A1. Any other discussion among the board? Hearing none. Can we invite Karen in?
That'd be helpful.
All right, hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, thanks everybody.